Daddy is not dead! The little girl's voice cracked the silence. She pointed at the wooden floorboards beneath her. 4 officers froze. One of them blinked. You said what, sweetheart? Her tiny finger trembled. Her eyes widened with something deeper than fear. It was certainty. He's under there. I heard him calling last night. I told Mommy, but she said never to say that again. The air inside the playroom thickened. Toys scattered across the floor like the aftermath of a forgotten war. Plastic cars, Lego bricks, a stuffed giraffe with one eye torn. The girl's dress had strawberries on it, but her knees were scraped, and her hands, tiny, shaking, pressed into the wood as if trying to hear something still echoing below. Officer Reynolds exchanged a glance with the others. Veterans. They'd seen overdoses, shootings, even hostage situations. But this? A 7-year-old black girl whispering that her dead father was under the house? It wasn't in any training manual. They crouched beside her. Reynolds tried to soften his voice. What makes you think he's there, sweetheart? The girl looked up. Tears didn't fall, but her lips quivered. I don't think it. I know. He tapped back. Silence. Then she pressed her ear to the floor. Tap, 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 tap. Everyone heard it. All 4 officers shot up, guns drawn. One grabbed his radio. Unit 23 requesting backup. Possible entrapment. 10:53. Repeat. Possible 10:53. Another officer was already peeling back a rug, revealing a faint outline of a square cut in the wood, a hidden hatch. Jesus Christ, one of them muttered. But the little girl wasn't surprised. She just whispered, I told you. Daddy's not dead. Mommy lied. Her name was Amira, 7 years old. Loves strawberries and coloring books. But for the past few weeks, her drawings turned darker. Stick figures under houses, red scribbles. One picture showed a man with an X over his mouth and a floorboard above his head. She lived in a modest single-story house at the edge of Atlanta. Weathered paint, a small backyard, a swing that never swung anymore. Her mom, Vanessa, worked night shifts at a local diner. At least that's what she told neighbors. No one asked more questions. No one dared. Amira used to have a dad, Deshaun Thomas, 34, a quiet man. Used to play guitar on the porch. Used to kiss Amira on the forehead before bed and say, even when you don't see me, I'm watching the stars for you. One day, he vanished. Vanessa told people he left, then changed her story. He OD'd. Cops didn't find the body. It happens. Nobody pushed further. Not in this part of town. Not when you're black, broke, and invisible. But Amira never believed it. He wouldn't leave me, she once told her teacher. They just don't want me to find him. The teacher thought it was grief, imagination, trauma manifesting in fantasy. They were wrong. The cops now stood in Amira's living room. Dust floated in shafts of morning light. The bookshelf had only children's books, but one shelf was off balance, like something had been pulled out, then shoved back hastily. Reynolds glanced around. Something felt wrong. Too quiet. Too clean. Vanessa wasn't home. A neighbor said she'd left early, before dawn. Unusual, even for her. Where's your mom now? One officer asked gently. Amira didn't answer. She just looked at the bookshelf. She said not to tell. Tell what? Amira whispered. She said if I tell, I'll end up like Daddy. The room went cold. The child was scared, but not just scared of the dark. She was scared of her own mother. Officer Reynolds knew what this was becoming. Not just a domestic case, This was something deeper, something buried, literally. He ordered one officer to stay with Amira, another to canvass the area for Vanessa, and then he crouched by the hatch. Loose wood, faint scratch marks. He pressed his hand against it. Something tapped back. It wasn't imagination. It wasn't grief. And it sure as hell wasn't over. Deshaun Thomas was a man forgotten by the system long before he disappeared. He worked 2 jobs, construction by day, warehouse by night, never complained, never asked for help. His only joy? Coming home to kiss Amira goodnight, telling her bedtime stories about stars and dreams. But to some, that wasn't enough. Vanessa, his wife, had changed ever since she met a man named Marcus. Tall, sharp-dressed, didn't work, but always had money, flashy rings, loud car, whispers around the block, said he sold things that never made it to receipts. Deshaun didn't trust him. Didn't like how Marcus looked at Amira. Didn't like how Vanessa started staying out late, leaving cold meals on the counter. One night, Deshaun confronted him. There were shouts. Then, silence. That was the last time neighbors saw him. Vanessa claimed he left in a rage, that he was a coward, that he ran off like all the other broke black men. She told everyone, at the store, at Amira's school, at church. "He's trash," she said. "He left me to raise a child alone." No one questioned her. Deshaun became a ghost. His photo vanished from the wall. His name was never spoken, except by one person, Amira. She drew his face in notebooks. She spoke to the stars at night. She wrote notes and slid them under her bed. "Daddy, if you can hear me, I love you. Mommy's lying." Vanessa found one of the notes. That night, Amira woke up with her toys gone, her walls empty, her drawings shredded, and a slap across the face. "You will never speak of him again," Vanessa hissed. "If you do, you'll join him." Amira didn't understand what that meant, not at first. But one night, she heard it, a voice, muffled, calling her name from beneath the floor. "Amira, baby." She froze, pressed her ear to the wood. He was alive. He was still there, and no one believed her, not her teacher, not her neighbors, not even the social worker who visited once and smiled too wide. They all thought she was processing grief, that she was delusional. But Deshaun wasn't a memory. He was a prisoner, and the world had let it happen. That's why, when the officers arrived, Amira didn't cry, didn't panic. She waited for the right people, the ones with ears that actually listened, the ones who would finally lift that floorboard and set the truth free. Amira was just 7, but inside her, a quiet fire had started burning. She stopped crying when people ignored her. She stopped talking when adults rolled their eyes. But she never stopped listening. Every whisper, every footstep, every strange moment her mother locked the bedroom door and whispered on the phone, Amira remembered it all. She knew the floor creaked differently near the window. She knew Mommy got angrier when Marcus stayed overnight, and she knew, in her little bones, that Daddy was alive. So she made a plan. Not loud, not reckless. She watched cop shows on the neighbor's TV when they babysat her. She learned what evidence meant. She heard the word record. One night when Vanessa was out and Marcus had passed out on the couch, Amira crept into her mom's room, found the phone, opened the voice recorder app, and crawled to the hatch. She pressed record, then whispered through the cracks. "Daddy, if you're there, tap. Just like last time." Silence. Then, tap, tap, tap. She didn't flinch. She held the phone steady. 20 seconds, then saved a file. She named it. "Daddy is here." Over the next few days, Amira kept going. She drew the hatch. She wrote what Daddy whispered at night. Sometimes it was just her name. Other times it was fragments. Tell them, trapped, she hurt me. One day, while Vanessa was in the shower, Amira borrowed her phone again. She sent the audio to her school counselor's email. Subject, please listen. It's real. Then she deleted the sent message, put the phone back, and waited. But nothing happened. No call, no visit, no knock on the door. That's when she understood. She needed to bring the police herself. So that morning, when Vanessa forgot to lock the front door, and Amira saw the officers on the street responding to a noise complaint nearby, she ran, barefoot, still in her nightgown. She tugged at one officer's uniform. Please, my daddy's under the floor. They tried to calm her, tried to take her home, but Amira wasn't begging. She looked them in the eye and said, he's alive. I have proof. But if you take me back without listening, he's gonna die. That stopped them. That made them follow her. Back into the toy-strewn living room, back to the wooden floor, back to the hat she'd stared at for 34 nights straight. Now, the moment had come. Now the truth would rise, not with shouts, not with screams, but with the quiet strength of a little girl who refused to forget. The floor creaked as Officer Reynolds pried up the final plank. The room held its breath. Amira stood still, her eyes locked on the dark space opening beneath her feet. Flashlights cut into the void. Dust swirled, wooden beams, cobwebs, and then a hand, thin, shaking, still alive. My God! One officer gasped. They rushed in. A body lay curled in the crawl space, filthy, barely breathing, eyes sunken but still open. Deshawn, alive, gasping, trying to speak with lips cracked from thirst. Officer Reynolds dropped to his knees. Sir, can you hear me? Deshawn's voice was like sandpaper. Amira, I heard her every night. They pulled him out gently. Bones too visible, skin pale under dirt. He was wearing the same clothes he vanished in, the same shirt Amira drew over and over. They wrapped him in a thermal blanket, called in EMS oxygen. The medics confirmed it. He had been trapped under the house for over a month, barely survived, dehydrated, malnourished, but alive. And the worst part? He'd been drugged before being hidden there, injected, paralyzed, aware, but unable to move or scream. A perfect lie. Vanessa hadn't just claimed he left. She made sure he couldn't prove otherwise. While medics tended to Deshawn, one officer turned to Amira. You saved him, he said. But she didn't smile. She just stared at the bookshelf. Behind it, they found something else. A hidden cabinet, locked. They forced it open. Inside, cash, packets, pills, a handgun, and a phone. They unlocked it. Dozens of messages. Vanessa, Marcus, conversations about clearing Deshawn out, about planting something under the house. And worse, videos. Security footage from a hidden camera in Amira's room, set up by Marcus. Everything changed. It wasn't just abuse, it was trafficking, control, attempted murder, and Amira had been in the center of it, watched, used, silenced, until she spoke up. Officers didn't wait. An APB went out for Vanessa and Marcus. Marcus was caught 2 hours later at a gas station. But Vanessa, she was gone, disappeared into the city. But this time, they had names, proof, evidence, and a witness that no one could ignore anymore. A child, a daughter, the girl who cracked the silence and saved her father from the dark. The news broke within hours. 7-year-old girl saves father buried alive under floorboards. Missing black man found alive. Child's tip exposes shocking truth. Justice for Deshaun. Amira the Brave. The hashtags exploded across social media. Millions watched the body cam footage. That moment, Deshaun's hand reached up from the dark. That moment, Amira whispered, "I told you he was alive." And suddenly the world couldn't look away. Not from the pain, not from the truth, not from the quiet bravery of a little girl who had been ignored for too long. Donations poured in for Deshaun's recovery, for Amira's therapy, for legal action. A civil rights lawyer took the case pro bono, called it the clearest act of long-term racially charged domestic silencing I've ever seen. Celebrities reposted her story. Activists demanded a full investigation into the local child services office, how they missed the signs, how so many ignored Amira's voice. And schools across the state began new programs, Believe the Child campaigns, training teachers, officers, and social workers to never brush off a child's fear as fantasy again. Deshaun spent 2 weeks in the hospital. When he finally stood on his own, reporters cried. When he hugged Amira for the first time since escaping the crawl space, the world wept. "I kept calling," he said at the press conference. "I didn't know if she could hear me, but she did more than hear me. She answered." He held her hand like it was made of gold. "She saved my life. She's the reason I'm standing here." Vanessa was caught a week later, found in a hotel outside Memphis, using a fake ID. Marcus had already confessed. She tried to plead insanity, but the audio, the texts, the child surveillance footage, it sealed her fate. She was charged with attempted murder, kidnapping, child endangerment, drug possession, conspiracy, sentenced to 42 years without parole. Marcus, 37 years. Neither of them looked at Amira in court. She didn't need them to. She had Deshaun's hand in hers. And for the first time, her drawings were full of light, stars, guitars, porch swings, and a home that felt like one again. The city named a park bench after her. Amira's bench, for the child who saw the truth when adults refused to. Every weekend she sits there with her dad, reading, laughing, and sometimes just watching the sky. Because even now, Deshaun still says it. "Even when you don't see me, I'm always watching the stars for you." Sometimes, the smallest voice carries the loudest truth. Amira never shouted. She didn't fight with fists. She didn't scream for justice. She believed. She believed in what she heard, in what she saw, and in the love of a father she refused to let the world erase. And that belief saved a life. It exposed a web of lies. It shook a community. It changed how people listened, to children, to survivors, to those too often dismissed. For Deshaun, recovery was slow. His body had been caged, but his spirit never broke. Each morning he sits on the porch again, this time with a notebook. He writes songs, stories, letters to Amira she'll read when she's older. He tells her, "You didn't just rescue me, baby. You reminded the world that love doesn't die in the dark. It waits, and it fights." The officers who once doubted her, they visit often now. They bring her art supplies. They sit with her in the park. One of them, Officer Reynolds, now works in youth protection. He tells every trainee, "If a child says something unbelievable, don't ask if it's true. Ask what made them brave enough to say it." The town, once quiet in its ignorance, now speaks louder. Murals of Amira's story appear on school walls. Seminars are held. Helplines launched. Kids encouraged to speak up no matter how crazy it sounds. Because truth doesn't always wear a badge. Sometimes it wears a strawberry dress and holds a crayon. And a mirror. She smiles more now. But sometimes when the stars come out, she still sits by the window, holding the glow-in-the-dark star Deshawn gave her. Still watching, Daddy? He grins from the porch. Always. Because silence may hide the truth. But belief digs it up. Belief sets it free. And in a world that doubted her, a 7-year-old black girl taught everyone the one lesson they'll never forget. Never ignore the quiet ones. They're the ones who change everything.